Hey everyone, it's Peter Kerr from Rock Daydream Nation, and welcome to part two of my top 10 live albums of all time. So, why don't we get started? Couple of honourable mentions. Def Leppard, When the Walls Come Tumbling Down, Oxford, 1980. So, this is when Def Leppard, to me, had fire in the belly. They were hungry, they were young, they wanted to conquer UK, they wanted to conquer America. This was off the back of the On Through the Night album. Some may say the classic lineup of Joe Elliott, Rick Savage, Pete Willis, Steve Clark, and Rick Allen. It's a great album. It's rough, it's raw, it's got a lot of power in it. And if you want to hear your Def Leppard before their sound became more refined, and some would say processed, in respect of Pyromania and then Hysteria, definitely do yourself a favor and check out this album, Def Leppard, When the Walls Come Tumbling Down, Oxford, 1980. My other honourable mention is a band called The Cramps, Smell of Female. So the Cramps are a psychobilly garage rock legend. This was recorded in 1983 at the Peppermint Lounge in New York City. It's the classic lineup of Lux Interior, Poison Ivy, Kid Congo, and Nick Knox. I can tell you that the Cramps are one of the best live acts I've ever seen. Lux Interior was just absolutely berserk. They had that classic sort of retro but yet punkish type of sound. And this album is just a great document of, probably the Cramps at their peak in 1983. The classic tracks off this album are, Beautiful Gardens, Surfin' Dead, and Faster Pussycat. So check it out, Smell of Female. Now we get into the top six, counting down to one. When we say Cheap Trick, I guess when you think of live albums, you sort of think of Live at Budokan, great album. But for me, this album is even better. Are You Ready Live, 1979. So this album was recorded off the back of their Dream Police tour. That album to me is probably one of my top three, Cheap Trick. I think they were at the peak around that era, 1979 to 80. It's got the songs that they're just putting out there with the Dream Police, On Top of the World, Gonna Raise Hell, and then some of the older songs from those first couple of albums like Surrender, I Know What I Want You to Want Me, etc., etc. Definitely check this out. I think this is Cheap Trick's finest live album on vinyl, bar none. And that is my number six. Number five, Liveline, The Angels, or as they were known in the Northern Hemisphere as Angel City. I've waxed lyrical about this band in my channel. I can't stop talking about them, and I will continue to push them. I think they were a great, and still are a great band, and should have been much more successful and more widely known. Liveline is a document between 1981 and 1989 when they were touring the beer barns of Australia, the theatres, and a couple of live cuts from the west coast of America when they did a tour during the 80s. The central lineup of Doc Neeson, Rick and John Brewster, and also Bob Spencer, who came in on guitar. It's got all their hits. It's primal. It's shows the connection between, the band and the audience. Great arrangements. It's robust, and it's a band that, even though they started in 1976, 75, in the 80s, all through these tracks, you can sense that they've got fire in the belly in a live environment. It's a killer album. Do yourself a favor and check it out. Liveline, The Angels, or Angel City. Number four, Whitesnake, Live in the Heart of the City. So I did a previous show on the Whitesnake albums, and one of my sort of criticisms of Whitesnake was those early albums, great musicianship, good songcraft, but it didn't quite translate the the live sound on vinyl in a studio setting. And then lo and behold, in 1980, we got this, which shows Whitesnake in their true environment, which is not in a studio, but live. You've got the quintessential versions of Mistreated, Fool for Your Loving, and There Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City, which shows the communal sort of concert experience between the audience and David Coverdale as the lead vocalist. Yeah, this is just a great live album, and it's the quintessential lineup of Coverdale, Bernie Marsden, Mick Moody, John Lord, Neil Murray, and Ian Pace. So yeah, that is my number 4, and that is Whitesnake live in the heart of the city. Number 3, the Ramones. Now I'm going to cheat a little bit. It's called It's Alive 2, but my number 3 pick is actually It's Alive, either the number 1 version and the most popular version that's been out there since the 80s, or It's Alive 2, which was a Record Store Day release. Basically, the 2 records were 1 or 2 days apart, and it just shows the Ramones at their finest. No guitar lead breaks, no sort of noodling. It's just 36 songs, one after the other at breakneck pace. Like side 1, Rockaway Beach, Teenage Lobotomy, Blitzkrieg Bob, I Want to Be Well, Glad to See You Go. It's just rock and roll at its most, primal force. And it's just, from start to finish, it's just a magnificent document of what the Ramones were in a live environment. So that's my number 3, and it's Alive 1 / It's Alive 2. Equally, I can't separate it. It's my number 3, and check it out. Number 2, Motorhead, No Sleep to Hammersmith. So this is the classic lineup of Lemmy Kilmister, Fast Eddie Clarke, and Filthy Animal Taylor. It went to number 1, the UK charts, and it's probably one of those bands where, in my opinion, the live album is probably their best album to get. Not to say that you can't explore the rest of their discography. It's great, but if you want to have the essential Motorhead, go for this one. No Sleep Till Hammersmith. It's got all the hits. Ace of Spades, Stay Clean, Metropolis, Let's Hear It for the Road Corps. It's primal, it's raw, it's heavy. It's got a true, in my opinion, the original lineup of Motorhead was the essential lineup of Motorhead. Not to say that the other lineups, were not good. They were great, but this is, to me, Motorhead. And if you want to hear what Motorhead sounded in 1980, this is the album for you. No Sleep to Hammersmith. Finishing up with my number 1, and that is Strangers in the Night, UFO. So I know this gets number 1 on a lot of best live albums of all time lists. Well, I'm joining the club. It's a great live album. It's Michael Schenker's probably finest moment on vinyl. Even though he says that he's made a few boo-boos and mistakes when he was recording it. It was recorded over a number of nights in America when they were doing a tour. It came out in 1979. And Michael Schenker left the band, which is a shame, because I think that this band was starting to build up a really good chemistry, and they were getting better and better in respect of their studio albums, what it could have been. Their best album is a live album, and that live album happens to be my favorite live album of all time, and in some people's opinions, the greatest live album of all time. And I think the thing that there's just so much energy. Like a lot of these songs on in a studio setting were good, but Michael Schenker's guitar playing lifted it into the sublime. And you know, I mean, just look at the Natural Thing, Out in the Street, Doctor Doctor, Lights Out, Rock Bottom, just to name a few. I think that what's really makes this album a great album is the track listing. It's nicely paced, and I think in a live album, it's really important to get the right track listing, to get the right dynamics, light and shade, beginning and end, builds up to a crescendo. This is the album. So UFO, Strangers in the Night, that's my number one. And in my opinion, I think it's Michael Schenker's finest moment, along with the rest of the band. Phil Moog sings beautifully. No, it's a great album. That's my number one. So tell me what you think. Put your comments down. What do you think is the greatest live album of all time? What are your favorites? Please subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation. We're going to have some great shows coming up soon. Going to be ranking the top 5 Maiden songs. That'll be coming soon. And another panel show on the channel called Slow Burn Albums. Albums that you bought, didn't like at the time, but over time, it became one of your favorites. And that's a panel show that'll be on the channel very soon. So lots of great stuff. Please subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation, and I'll catch you soon. Cheers.